Hey Algebra 2, today is our first video that you guys have to watch, and we're going to start off with linear equations. Linear meaning it's just going to be to the first degree. Just a few things just to review here. Don't forget that the letter that's in a problem is called the variable. Again, this is stuff that you guys should already know. Variable, and a number that's being multiplied by a variable, that's called a coefficient. Okay, so coefficient and variable. So we are going to solve. Now, when you're dealing with a linear equation, it says solve. What that means, it wants to know what is the value of the variable. So you have to get the variable by itself. So key thing here, get variable by itself. Okay, that's the key. Alright, so let's start with this first problem. This first problem says 2 times 3c plus 19 minus 9c is equal to 7 minus 3 times 11 minus 3c. So the first thing on all these problems is you want to get rid of the parentheses. So what we're going to have to do, since there is a coefficient on the outside, we're going to distribute the number that's out front. So here we have 2 times 3c, which is 6c. 2 times 19, which is 38. Now this didn't get affected by the 2, so we bring it straight down. Now here, on this side, don't forget, when you distribute the number into the parentheses, you also take the symbol that's in front of it. So here we have really a negative 3, okay? We have a negative 3 that we're distributing, so negative 3 times a positive 11 is a negative 33. And again, don't forget to distribute, because negative times a negative is a positive. So now we have positive 9c. Okay? Now the next step you always want to do is, before you start moving things from one side of the equal sign to the other, you want to combine like terms. So here, and remember, you only combine like terms on the same side of the equal sign. So don't combine them this way. So here we have 6c minus 9c gives us a negative 3c plus 38. It's equal to, here we have 7 minus 33. So we're going to combine those that don't have c. That gives us a negative 26 plus 9c. I'll go ahead and get rid of this stuff. Okay. Now we can actually move all the c's to one side, everything else to the other. So there's no really wrong way to move these in terms of the c's has to go on this side or has to go on that side. We get to choose. I like to get rid of negative variables. So I'm going to move this 3c, negative 3c. And you always do the opposite. So since it says minus 3c, we're going to add 3c to both sides of the equal sign. And I'm going to combine it with like terms. So these cancel out. I'm going to bring down to 38. So if 38 is equal to negative 26 plus 9 plus 3 is 12c. So now I'm going to move the negative 26. So I move the c over. I need to move the number without c to the other side. So I'm going to add 26 since it says minus. So here I have 64 is equal to 12c. So it's crossed out. So finally, again, since it says solve, it means we want the c completely by itself. We want one c. So since it says 12 times, always do the opposite to move. So we can divide by 12. Now 12 doesn't go evenly into 64. So we have c is equal to 64 over 12. But we can reduce that. We can reduce both of these by 4. Okay. If we divide both of those by 4, 64 divided by 4 is 16. 12 divided by 4 is 3. And so 3 doesn't go into 16. So I like answers, now that we're in Algebra 2, I don't like mixed numbers. I like improper fractions. So here we have c is equal to 16 over 3. That would be our final answer. So again, on these linear equations, get rid of the parentheses first by distributing. Watch your symbols. Okay. Combine like terms on either side of the equal sign, and then we can move the c's over, move the other numbers to the left side, and again, I could have moved the 9c by subtracting first. That would have been okay as well. And then we divide that number out so we can have c completely by itself. Alright, let's do our next example. Here we have decimals. Oh, so fun decimals. Well, no one really likes decimals, so we're going to try to get rid of them. So before we start moving things from one side to the other, I'm going to find the number with the most amount of decimals. So here we have 2. So every decimal place is another 0. So like this is the tens place. Okay, this 3 is the tens place. The 5 is the hundredths place. Okay, tenth, hundredth. So therefore we're going to multiply everything by 100 to get rid of the decimals. So we're going to multiply this by 100. You multiply this by 100. Okay. So now 100 times 2.1. You just move the decimal place over twice. So it becomes 210x plus 300 is equal to 5,130, big number, minus 135x. Now you could have moved everything. You could have moved the decimals first, or moved the variables to get like terms to one side. But I just go ahead and get the decimals out of there by multiplying by 100. Okay? And again, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Even though there's only one decimal, I can't multiply this by 100 and this side by 10. I have to multiply by the same amount. So now let's go ahead and get these to the right side, or the correct side, that's what I mean. Okay, so I add 135x because it says minus. Do the opposite. So I have 345x plus 300 is equal to 5,130. I subtract the 300. Okay, that cancels out. I'm left with 345x is equal to 4,830. So now when I divide, I'm going to take my calculator out because I sure don't want to do this by hand. I have 4,830 divided by 345. And if I do this correctly, I get x is equal to 14. And you notice in my class I very much like you guys to box your answers or circle them or something like that. So again, find the most amount of decimals, hundredths place, so we're going to multiply everything by 100. Now we have no decimals. Move the variables to one side, move the numbers without to the other, then we divide. There you go. Alright, a couple more examples here. Now we have fractions. So we did decimals, now we're going to do fractions. So no one really likes fractions either. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the common denominator. Remember, there's an invisible 1. Whenever you have a whole number, there's an invisible 1. So we try to figure out what is the smallest number that 4, 2, 6 all go into. So the smallest number I can think of is 12. So we're going to multiply both sides by 12. Okay? Again, and if you guys don't know how to do that, just think of, just set up, we have 2, 4, just multiples. 6, 8, 10, 12. Notice 4 is 4, 8, 12, 6, you have 6, 12. It's the first number that appears for all those multiples. Okay? Alright. So now when we distribute, we have 12 times 3 is 36. 36 divided by 4 is 9. So we have 9x. Plus 12 times 1 is 12. Divided by 2 is 6. Now we can distribute on this side as well. Now I did it one way on this side. I'm going to do it a little different here. You can either multiply by the numerator, then divide by the denominator. Or you can start with the denominator first. 12 divided by 6 is 2. 2 times the top, 2 times 7 is 14. And again, 12 divided by 1 is 12. Times 3 is 36. So there's two ways of doing it. Multiply the top, divide by the bottom, or divide by the bottom, then multiply by the top. Same answer if you do it correctly. So now we're going to move this 36 plus 36. So we have 9x plus 42 is equal to 14x. So we move numbers without x to the left. So we need to move numbers with x to the right. So therefore we have 42 is equal to 5x. Lastly, we need to get x by itself, so we're going to divide by 5. Now 5 does not go into 42 evenly, so we just leave it improper fraction. There's nothing you can reduce by. And there you have it, 42 divided by 5. Alright, let's move on. Solve. Okay, we have, let me rewrite that. 2x plus 8 over 3x minus 2 is equal to 5 over 4. Now we have fractions on both sides, but we have variables in the fractions. When you're left with just one fraction on the left, 1 equals one fraction on the right, the best thing to do is cross multiply. So we're gonna cross multiply. So we have diagonally. So we have 4 times 2x plus 8. Okay, again cross multiply is equal to 5 times 3x minus 2. Okay, again multiply diagonally and set them equal to each other. So you can distribute now. 4 times 2 is 8x plus 4 times 8 is 32. We distribute, that gives us 15x. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. So here we need to get all the variables on one side. So we're going to subtract 8x. So we're left with 32 is equal to 7x minus 10. Now we need to move the numbers without variables to the other side. So we're going to add 10. So we have 42 is equal to 7x. And lastly, you want to divide by the coefficient. So 42 divided by 7 is 6. And there you go. And again, you can always check your work by plugging back into the original problem. If I were to do that, I would get 6 times 2 is 12 plus 8. Again, this is if I were to plug back in. 6 times 2 is 12 plus 8, which is 20, over 6 times 3, 18, minus 2, which is 16. You have to ask yourself, is 20 over 16, does it reduce to 5 over 4? Yes, it does, if you were to divide both the top and bottom by 4. So again, just another way to check your work. Plug your answer back into the original problem, and hopefully it should work out. Alright, now this is a little different type of problem. It says solve for x. This type of problem is just making sure you understand the correct way to get any term that you're looking for by itself. So we're not going to come up with a specific number for x. It's just saying get x by itself. That's what it's saying, solve for x. So if it says px minus 5 is equal to n, we need to move the right thing first. So here we want to move the 5 out of there. So since it says minus 5, we're going to add 5. Now notice this doesn't have an n. So when you add and subtract, you can't combine unlike terms. So therefore, we're just going to put px is equal to n plus 5. And lastly, the way to get something, act like p is like a coefficient, since it's p times x, we're going to divide. Remember, always do the opposite. So your final answer would be x equals n plus 5 over p. And that would be your final answer. And let's just do one more like this, just to make sure we got it. So we have y is equal to 7/3 x plus z. And remember, we're trying to solve for x. We want to get x by itself. So since x is here, we want to move whatever's not connected to x first, which is the z. So we're going to subtract z. So we're left with y minus z is equal to 7/3 x. So now we need to get the 7/3 out of there. Since it's being multiplied, what you can do is multiply by the reciprocal, which is just the flipped version of the fraction. So we're going to multiply this side by 3 sevenths, just like we did here. Those cancel out, so we're left with x is equal to 3/7 times y minus z. And that would be your final answer. So good luck with these. Again, the point of the video is that you can go home, you can watch them. If you need to rewind it to see what steps I did and for me to re-explain it, you can do that. So good luck, and that is our first lesson. Have a good day.